My point is that elections often turn out in strange ways that you don't expect, and that's what I was expecting. But after I got there and I started to interview witnesses, and that I realized very quickly that something very strange and bad had happened in South Korea. And the evidence, as I saw it, was overwhelming that the National Assembly elections, which gave the leftist opposition a very strong majority in the National Assembly, their Congress, that had happened. And I came away convinced, and I have looked into the 2024 National Assembly elections, and basically the same thing happened. So I'd say that is what the evidence told me, and why I'm here. And you notice these days you hear about Ukraine, you hear about Gaza, Taiwan's problems, but what we don't hear is an impending disaster in South Korea that doesn't get attention, but it deserves a lot more.
Thank you, CPAC Korea, and Annie Chan, thank you for your leadership. CPAC Korea is now protecting the world's most vulnerable democracy. Leftists are trying to seize control of the government after the impeachment of President Yoon on December 14th, and now they have filed criminal charges against him for insurrection. The only thing that is protecting democracy in South Korea are conservatives in the cold, on the streets, confronting leftists on Seoul and Daegu and so many other cities. What's at stake? Well, nothing less than the continuation not only of democracy, but also of the South Korean state, the Republic of Korea. If you want to know where the front line of democracy and freedom today is, it is in the streets of Seoul. And this crisis did not start in December with the impeachment of President Yoon. It did not start on April 15th, 2020 with the National Assembly elections, but today we will begin there. And on that day, in the election, it resulted in an uninspected, overwhelming victory for Minju, the Democratic Party of Korea. Minju won that election because of early votes in district after district, tipped the results to the leftists. This election was stolen. In 2024, just like in 2020, we had unexpected results and a big Minju victory. They did it again. This is something that never happened before in South Korean history. NEC, National Election Committee, in 2024, they even hired Chinese to count the votes. So what's the consequence of all of this? Well, Minju now controls the National Assembly, as they have for the last 4 years, but something else, and that is Minju is not a normal political party. Its leaders somehow seem to think that they are still in the 7th century when China's Tang Dynasty controlled much of the Korean Peninsula. So you have leftist leaders. They believe they are vassals of this magnificent Chinese state, or even servants of it. And they are now allowing Beijing to infiltrate South Korean society and to determine outcomes in South Korean elections. So the Chinese and their North Korean friends are now conducting their warfares campaign. There are 3 warfares: psychological warfare, media warfare, and legal warfare. And because of that, the Chinese have become extremely influential.
I believe because the main reason why President announced the martial law is to investigate election fraud, and he sent more than 300 troops to search National Election Commission. That's pretty much obvious. So once President ends up being impeached, then it's very difficult to talk about election fraud issue in Korea. Then, there will be regular election fraud, and the Chinese Communist Party will definitely be behind. So then, president, mayor, governor, all the public officials in Korea will be elected among pro-China group of people. Then Korea will quickly turn into pro-China country. Then probably that will be pretty much national threat to America. It's really issue of national security to the America. That's my view.
제가 보기에는 북한이 한국을 공산화하기 위한 것이 가장 본질적인 문제라고 생각을 합니다. 그러니까 남과 북은 태어날 때부터 체제 경쟁 속에 뛰어들었습니다. 그래서 이제 북한인 경우에는 김일성이 1950년 6월 25일에 한국 전쟁을 일으키기도 했습니다. 이게 다 체제 경쟁의 일환이거든요. 그런데 지금 현저하게 차이 나는 것은 1980년대에 들어서면서부터 남과 북의 체제 경쟁은 완전히 끝났습니다. 그 말은 무슨 말인가 하니 한국이 경제, 정치, 경제, 문화, 군사를 비롯한 모든 영역에서 북한을 완전히 압도했습니다. 지금 현재 한국의 경제 순위가 세계 13위거든요. 그리고 또 GDP가 북한에 비해서 40배 이상 높습니다. 이렇게 이제 체제 경쟁을 할 수 없는 단계에 이르렀기 때문에 북한이 지금 선택과 집중을 해서 핵에 올인하고 있는 것이라고 생각을 합니다. 그래서 북한은 1980년대부터 시작해서 근 40년 동안 자기 체제를 수호하기 위해서 핵을 계속 질 양쪽으로 강화해 왔다고 생각합니다.
And in the erosion of freedom in Hong Kong, the great magic in a dark way of what the CCP was doing is it convinced the Hong Kong people themselves to destroy their own institutions and give up their own freedoms. And if you look, there's a second example of that that's worldwide, but it affected us here. The COVID virus was developed and deployed out of China. They lied and manipulated the World Health Organization, but the greatest damage done to America during the COVID pandemic was Americans destroying our own institutions and our own freedoms. They got us to do it to us. And so what Gordon and others are warning about are Chinese Communist Party influence operations where they are trying to get Koreans to destroy their own institutions, the pillars of that vaunted alliance that has been forged in blood and should be rock solid. And so it is a version of this mind virus that goes out there. But the only way we can get back is if the Korean people get to a point where they've had it the way the American people had, that there's a Make Korea Great Again movement the way there's a Make America Great Again movement, and we've got to have a new golden age that is not in America but also in Korea. One of the tools to do that is election integrity. And I'll just end with this anecdote. One of the most attacked areas by the Chinese Communist Party is Taiwan. I've been blessed to spend most of my life from martial law to today looking at the electoral process in Taiwan. Somehow, in a single day, 12 to 15 million people are allowed to vote. They show an identification, they fill out a paper ballot that has witnesses, and they are able to go through and have results by 8 or 9 p.m. that end up not really even being contested. But they have a system. It's not America telling the world how to do it. One of the other vulnerable democracies already does this. And we don't need electronic systems to count. It's done by the precinct level up. And human beings have shown that they can do this with integrity in other countries. And so, watch out for the CCP influence operations. Watch out for the mind virus that gets us to attack each other and our own institutions. But do go back to making it easy to vote and hard to cheat with paper ballots and verifiable systems. With that, hopefully, we have a diagnosis and a prescription.
선거 제도에 있어서 이미 모범 사례가 있습니다. 그거는 바로 대만 사례고, 대만은 당일 투표 그리고 투표소 수개표를 합니다. 부재자 투표소도 없고 사전 투표도 없습니다. 그리고 그 투표소에서 바로 개표를 합니다. 이런 식으로 바꾸는 것이 제일 중요하다고 생각합니다. 제가 생각하는 아까 프레드 프라이츠가 얘기를 했는데 over 90% of South Koreans dislike China. and strongly identify as pro-Korean.
And a wicked regime as evil as North Korea will not be able to stand for a long time by historical standards. There is no sane reason why South Korea should want to become more like North Korea. There is no sane reason why South Korea should want to be overrun by communism. Because every time communism has been tried, it has led to the seizure of property of the people and the crushing of the people themselves. No exception, worldwide, every single time it has been tried. So then, those proponents of moving more in a North Korean direction, of falling more into the Chinese Communist Party's orbit, are advocating insanity. When you have a situation where the National Election Commission is saying, nothing to see here, move on folks, when you have the Constitutional Court rejecting an inspection of the voter rolls and saying that inspection into the electronic voting system is irrelevant and immaterial to the impeachment case of President Yoon, this is legal nonsense. And I say this as a legal scholar. President Yoon, under Article 77 of the South Korean Constitution, had the constitutional authority as president, as the duly elected president of South Korea, to declare martial law in a time of crisis for his country. He did this at great risk to himself as president, and he has been paying the price heroically for his country. The Constitutional Court of South Korea should know that they are being watched. They have a scant amount of time as they're rushing this process forward. And more the world is watching. More and more South Korean society is waking up to what is going on. There is a youth movement that is sweeping across the country along these lines. And President Yoon has a majority of the population in South Korea supporting him as they recognize his heroic bravery in trying to expose and call for the investigation of the serious election integrity issues that are facing this country. If the National Election Commission is confident in what it has done, why does it not divulge and expose what should be, in their claim, legitimate procedures?
So we have a lot of pro-China group of people, even among conservatives, in case of you Republicans, right? So it's very much difficult to unite, even conservatives. That's big difference. So I have better suggestion, to the President Trump. Actually, I think we are not really asking him to help. We are saying that because President Trump actually initiated large-scale sanction in 2018 against China, right? That's the action, right? And as a reaction, China really try hard to make a certain anti-US alliance in East Asia. That's why China really made a great effort to manipulate public opinion in Korea, and they directly intervened in the public election process in Korea. That's why election rigging is regularly happening in Korea, right? So I think President Trump, if he's listening to me, is at least partly responsible for that. So how to solve that problem and taking his responsibility? Actually, it's very much easy, If President Trump can publicly declare that, quote, I'm saying, election rigging in the United States, Korea, and anywhere in the world is really crime. So election rigging must be properly investigated. And if there is Chinese intervention in electoral process, That's international crime. So that must be really stopped. In this regard, what President Yoon has been doing is pretty much worthy. So keep doing it, fight, 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 unquote. That kind of message is really necessary because we don't have much time. Anytime in March, final decision of impeachment of President Yoon will be issued. So only probably 1 week or 2 weeks is really available time. President Trump, why don't we give that very much simple and easy message to Korea? That will make Korea great again, as well as that will make America great again. Yes.